Imagine walking into your home and setting your phone down on a sleek circular pad without plugging in a cable or checking which side of the connector is up, and within seconds the phone begins charging on its own, as if some invisible energy were moving through the air between the pad and the device, converting itself into electricity inside your phone's circuitry. Wireless charging might seem like magic at first, but it's actually built on solid physics that has been understood for well over a century, using a fascinating phenomenon discovered by the British scientist Michael Faraday back in the 19th century, a process known as electromagnetic induction, which makes it possible to generate electric current using magnetic fields alone. Inside every wireless charging pad, there's a coil of copper wire that carries alternating current, and as that current flows back and forth, it creates a constantly changing magnetic field that radiates into the space above the pad in all directions, completely invisible to the eye but highly functional in its effect. When you place a compatible phone or other device on that pad, something that also contains a similar copper coil, the magnetic field from the base begins to interact with the receiver coil, inducing a current within it, because every change in a nearby magnetic field creates voltage in a conductor, a principle described by Faraday's law of induction. That newly induced current is still alternating, which means it needs to be converted into direct current before it can be stored in a battery. So it passes through a small rectifier circuit that smooths the wave and transforms it into the steady direct current your phone can actually use. What you've just witnessed is the wireless transfer of energy from a wall outlet to your phone battery, not through metal cables, but through carefully tuned magnetic fields that operate within just a few millimeters of distance. This technique is called inductive wireless charging, and the most widely used standard for it today is known as Qi, pronounced Qi, which was developed by the Wireless Power Consortium and has become the default for phones, smartwatches, earbuds, and even electric toothbrushes. For the process to be efficient, the two coils, one in the pad and one in the device, have to be placed extremely close to each other, typically no more than a few millimeters apart, because the strength and precision of the magnetic coupling drops significantly as the gap increases. That's why simply hovering your phone a few centimeters above the charger won't do anything, and why some wireless chargers rely on built-in magnets to help guide the phone into the perfect alignment. On average, wireless charging has an energy efficiency of about 70%, which means that out of every 10 watts of electricity entering the charging pad, only about 7 watts make it into the phone's battery, while the rest is lost as heat, which is also why wireless chargers and phones can get noticeably warm during use. To reduce these heat losses, manufacturers use various cooling solutions, including improved materials, smart power adjustments, and in some cases, even small built-in fans or cooling pads that draw excess heat away from the phone and the charging surface. Despite its convenience, wireless charging still has its limitations, especially in terms of speed, since wired chargers can now deliver more than 100 watts and recharge a battery in minutes, while typical wireless chargers operate at 10 to 15 watts, meaning slower charging times, especially for larger batteries. However, the technology is constantly evolving, with new approaches like resonant wireless charging, allowing power to be transferred over longer distances, and even through surfaces like wooden tables or plastic panels, thanks to a different type of electromagnetic coupling that doesn't require perfect alignment. Another advancement is multi-directional wireless charging, which doesn't rely on exact positioning. Instead, the charger detects where the device is and automatically directs the power in that direction, improving both user experience and charging consistency. There are even experimental systems that aim to charge devices remotely, using focused beams of microwave or infrared radiation to transmit energy through the air to a receiving device, which then converts it back into electricity, although these methods are still being tested for safety, accuracy, and real-world efficiency. Wireless charging isn't limited to small electronics either. In the world of electric vehicles, inductive charging systems can be embedded into parking garages or driveways, allowing EVs to recharge simply by parking over a specific spot, with no cables or human interaction required. Researchers are already working on integrating wireless charging directly into the roads themselves, so in the near future, cars could charge while driving over special lanes that activate only when a vehicle passes by, dramatically changing the way we think about battery range and charging stations. Some people worry whether wireless charging is safe for the human body, but based on all current standards, the answer is yes. The magnetic fields used for inductive charging are low frequency and non-ionizing, which means they don't damage DNA, cause cancer, or interact with biological tissue in harmful ways. Qi-certified wireless chargers are required to meet strict safety guidelines, including limits on field strength, thermal emissions, and protection against foreign objects like metal keys or coins. And if anything goes wrong, the charger automatically shuts down before any damage can occur. And while the idea of transmitting electricity without wires might sound like a recent invention, it actually dates back to the experiments of Nikola Tesla, who once dreamed of powering entire cities through the air using massive towers and resonant fields, an idea far ahead of its time, and only now starting to materialize in our modern devices. So even if today's wireless charging is still slower than a cord, it's getting better every year, and we may soon reach a point where plugging in becomes as outdated as using a rotary phone, because energy will always be where you need it, flowing silently through the air, without cords, without friction, and without delay. Subscribe us for more videos.